Every country has a national day. For Australia, it's January 26th. The day marks the arrival of the British First Fleet in 1788. And Australians celebrate the country's discovery by getting together with friends and family. But in recent years, a campaign to change the date has been gaining momentum. Because for the country's Indigenous people, January 26th is Invasion Day.
Now, for goodness sake, change the date.
Change the date.
Change the date.
For them, it marks the beginning of the loss of their land, the mass killing of their people, the rape of their women, and death by foreign diseases carried by settlers.
This is the best country in the world, no doubt. But I can't separate the 26th of January from the fact that my brothers are more likely to go to jail than they are to go to school, or that my little sisters and my mum are more likely to be beaten and raped than anyone else's sisters or mum. And that started from that day. So for me, it's a difficult day and I don't want to celebrate it, but any other day of the year, I'll tie an Australian flag around my neck and I'll run through the streets with anyone else.
Some local councils have stopped holding Australia Day celebrations on January 26th out of respect for Indigenous Australians. But Australia's Conservative Prime Minister isn't happy about that. This year, he revised the law, forcing all councils to hold citizenship ceremonies on Australia Day.
We're not just going to cop people undermining Australia's National Day. It's for all Australians. All Australians.
Campaigners say there's no reason not to change the date. January 26 didn't become a national holiday until 1994. Australia is a relatively young country that is continuing to evolve. But how will this debate shape the country's future? Should Australia change the date?
Well, let's speak now to Mariki Onus of the Gunit Jumara and Gunai tribes. She's a co-founder of WAR, that's the Warriors of Aboriginal Resistance. First off, let's talk about the group's aim, which is decolonisation, as opposed to working within existing white power structures. So what does that decolonisation actually look like?
Well, we haven't never really experienced it before, so it's kind of something that we have to dream and imagine for. But it looks like something where we would have complete control and power over our lives and the lands that we live on. We started WAR as a young group of Aboriginal people because we feel like we've tried everything with the current state. We've given every opportunity to work with the Australian state, and it's largely been ignored. Our Aboriginal children are still being removed at far greater rates than ever before.
Is there a disconnection, because you see it in many other First Nations countries or peoples, a disconnection between the young people and their ancestral lands and their history?
We're not disconnected from our people. It's the people that, our children that are getting taken away from our country and constantly live at the threat of child protection. If you don't send your child to settler colonial schools that only serve the settler colonial state of Australia, you'll have your children removed. So it's by force. But Aboriginal people, in our communities, and particularly in our family, the community that I'm from, we are not disconnected from each other. We have connection to our homelands. We have connection to our elders, and we know who we are. And we know, there is damage done from the missionaries and the massacre period and other forms of dispossession, but we certainly are connected to our culture and our elders, and we believe that the work that we're doing is carrying on the fight from our elders and our ancestors as well.
Let's talk a little bit about Australia Day, very obviously hugely controversial. There's a campaign to change the date, also to change the name. Tell us where that's at.
So we're not actually involved with changing the date. We're calling for it to be abolished, and we're calling for a new day that's more inclusive of everyone. And we also believe that Australia Day in recent times also perpetuates white nationalism and the rise of the Nazis within Australia. So we have grave concerns as to where white nationalism is going here, and that's why we believe it's important to abolish the day and centre it around something that, well, I don't really think that we have a lot to celebrate as a country. Australia was formed on genocide and dispossession, so there is nothing to really celebrate. And even if they change the day, what day would remedy the colonialism? It's kind of trivial to talk about changing the date. That's not our issue. Our issue is ongoing genocide and dispossession of Aboriginal people.